The fate of the residents of Ashraf are very important. They are key to restoring democracy in Iran. Yet, I am embarrassed to say today that the Obama administration, President Obama, Secretary Clinton, have elected to remain on the wrong side of this issue. I spoke to this issue first, the delisting, because I think that it's key to America's leadership role within the UN and making sure that we're able to push the UN to do the right thing as well for the sake of the Ashraf residents. The Ashraf residents right now are up against a Maliki government that is Iranian-controlled, and we want to make sure that he does the right thing. The UN agreement that Ashraf residents agreed to must be enforced to the letter of the law. The commitment that we made to the MEK to play an active role in insisting that Ambassador Kobler enforce the agreement, both to the letter of the agreement as well as in spirit, is key in this issue. It will take the United States pushing and shoving and fighting for what's right and making sure that Ambassador Kobler understands that we will not be a party to a watered-down agreement. We won the battle to extend the deadline at Camp Ashraf because we had a combined campaign between the United States and our European partners and allies, and also because of the great leadership of President-elect Rajavi, who crafted this agreement in such a manner that it could be carried out by the Ashraf residents and simultaneously bring a peaceful resolution to the issue that was on the table. But today I think we've still got to continue to deal with some of those same issues with the Iranians, with the Iraqis, and with, of course, the status of Camp Ashraf. And we must, of course, ensure that Maliki honors the MOU and allows the MOU, the United Nations, to quickly and efficiently process the residents of Ashraf for resettlement, and only moving them to liberty as a very temporary condition, and also only when the conditions of the MOU have been carried out. Ambassador Kobler and the United Nations have the overall responsibility for making sure that that happens. But I would say that the United States must play a very strong leadership role in this regard in making sure that the standards specified in that MOU are met. Above all today, I would hope that President Obama and President Clinton remember that the United States made a commitment to the MEK, and that commitment did not end when we turned Camp Ashraf and the area that it was in over to the Iraqis, and nor did it end when we finally got the United Nations involved in the plight of the Ashraf residents. We still have that responsibility to make sure we live up to our commitment. Our word is our bond, and therefore we cannot stop. We cannot rest until this issue is resolved. Thank you.
It's a humanitarian issue to prevent another genocide, a third genocide against the residents of Camp Ashraf, to support liberty and to support Iranian freedom, and to make sure that the U.S. guarantee which you've heard about, which is a promise to protect. Okay, this wasn't casual. This wasn't done by some master sergeant because he felt sorry for the residents in Camp Ashraf while he was there. This was a written promise by the United States of America to protect the lives of these men and women if they fulfilled their conditions, which they did. Now, we are going to be very tough as witnesses to ensure that the United States does not try to outsource this responsibility to the United Nations. We're not going to let that happen. As you heard, we can be in Camp Ashraf tomorrow at our own expense, by our own transportation. We can go to Camp Liberty. We'll tell you in 5 seconds whether it's a prison camp or a liberty camp, by the way. We're happy to do that. But I mean, here's a regime, the Iraqi regime, the al-Maliki government. We had senior members of our Congress, the Congress of the United States of America, asking for permission to visit Camp Ashraf, and you know what? He said no. He said, no, go away, you can't go there. Two of the attacks against Camp Ashraf, 47 people murdered, hundreds wounded in 2009, 2010, 2011, I'm sorry, happened while the United States Secretary of Defense was visiting with the Prime Minister of Iraq. So this is not going to be an easy thing to do, but we're going to push and we're going to force everybody's hand on that. And Patrick Kennedy has talked about this, and your friends in Congress, and you have a lot of them. I mean, I counted over 100 senators, senior leaders, Democrats, Republicans. You've managed to unite people on the furthest extremes of the political spectrum. You know, how about a resolution that says, you know, you don't spend, Mr. Prime Minister, another US dollar until you fix this situation and protect these people?
I'm the relative newcomer to this group, but in actuality, I've been working on the issue of Camp Ashraf since 2004. And when I got to Iraq in July of 2004, that just happened to be the same month that the MEK received its protected status, and we worked very hard to honor that commitment. And for the folks at Ashraf, they'll remember General Miller, General Brandenburg, and General Gardner, who worked daily or weekly with the residents there of Camp Ashraf and reported to me on a weekly basis to make sure that we retained our responsibilities. Why do I tell you all this? It's some of its ancient history. But I tell you all this because that is how Iran operates. They destabilized Iraq. They used terror as the means of accomplishing their political and ideological objectives. They're a destabilizing force in Iraq. They're a destabilizing force in the region. And it is not a regime that is capable of being a productive member of this world order. And they will not be removed without an effective and active democratic opposition.
But today, we have 3,400 people basically incarcerated in Iraq who started out as what we could have called the Persian Spring 30-some years ago. What do? We need to free those 3,400 people so they become the voice of Iranian freedom. You know, there are a couple entities. You have the UN, you have the European Union, you have the United States government, you have the government of Iraq. And as long as everybody can point to everybody else and say, well, these people have to act first, or this has to happen, or it's their fault, nothing will happen. So how do you untie that Gordian knot? Well, it seems to me that the real reason nobody can make a decision is because of the listing of the MEK in the mid-1990s by the U.S. government. To effect change, we need the U.S. State Department to delist the MEK. Now, the question is how you do it. You know, we're famous in Congress on having resolutions. Also, you know, we fund the Iraqi government. Basically, those dollars come from the U.S. Congress to make sure they're appropriated and at least help fund that government. That is a leverage that we have. All those powers come from the Congress. We have to have change now, and you can affect it. Think how much more powerful you are if we let loose the voices of those 3,400 people who are basically incarcerated in Iraq.